Well, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome back to those of you who have been with us for a while. And let's take a look today at the practicalities of this course, of what it actually means and what it actually involves to be a student and a practitioner of A Course in Miracles. And I continue to emphasize throughout practitioner. I emphasize practice because that is how we learn this course. Yes, it's a self-study curriculum. And yes, to understand its metaphysics, its ideas, what it says, and what it means, to understand that with the intellectual thinking mind does have some value. This is where people often become deeply perplexed, lost, dazed, and confused. That is only a fraction of the real learning. It has value. I just said that. It does. However, it pales in comparison to our actual putting this into practice. We learn A Course in Miracles by doing, by daily, moment to moment, practical application. That's how we learn these ideas the best. And think about it, it's through our experience. We don't even have to understand or grasp these ideas intellectually. We could be utterly confounded as to what Jesus is even trying to say. And yet we could go out and do it nonetheless and learn it perfectly. Perfectly. How? Our experience, through our practical application of these ideas, our experience shows us that they are true. Our experience demonstrates to us that the ideas that we're spending time on here in the course are true. In other words, we prove it to ourselves. Want proof? Perfect. Put these ideas into practice. You'll prove it to yourself. That is much more powerful, effective, and lasting than simply getting something with the intellectual thinking mind. This is where a lot of people get stuck. And if it's helpful to you to go beyond the thinking mind, there are some phrases, some passages from the introduction to the workbook where Jesus reassures us. Now, this is in relation to the workbook for students. You can apply this to the entire text that you don't have to understand the ideas to put them into practice. And you don't. You don't have to believe in them to put them into practice. And again, you don't. And in the workbook for students, we're simply asked to apply the day's idea as directed. That's it, that's all. We're not asked to believe the idea, and you may resist it actively. He says that too. And it's very true. You could be resisting this completely, dragged kicking and screaming, as it were, into A Course in Miracles without really knowing why. Yet here you are. So I invite you to put the ideas into practice. What we're talking about today is highly practical. It does involve some of the course's more fundamental ideas. Each lesson does. Each video does. Yet it's intended to be highly practical. And as you go forth and practice this material, it dawns on you that there is no compromise possible. It's all or nothing. Really, it is. There is no compromise that's possible if we expect to awaken. Why? Because we can't keep our little special forms of hatred for certain people and love everyone else. That's not love because it's not whole, it's not total. We can't single out some people. That's drawing an artificial boundary. That's separation. It's the domain and realm of the ego in which we appear to find ourselves. We appear to find ourselves looking something like this, roaming around, checking our email, eating, drinking, going to the bathroom, going to sleep, rinse, repeat, getting up the next day and doing it all over again and knowing, deep down, knowing that there's more to it than just that. It's why we're on the spiritual path in the first place. So we simply can't emphasize enough that you learn this course by doing it. This turns a lot of people off. If it turns you off, so what? That's all right, isn't it? You have the power of choice right now to listen to your inner teacher or the ego. And moment to moment, the question for each of us is which teacher will we choose? Which will it be? When we accept that we want the peace of God and nothing else, because there is nothing else, then we must realize that our forgiveness has to be total. We must recognize that guilt and fear are insane. Why is guilt insane? Well, the separation never occurred. You're not separate from God. You haven't done anything. You haven't partaken of the forbidden fruit and been kicked out of the garden. When we really look within, and I would refer you to the most recent video for a more in-depth treatment of this idea. That video is entitled "The Past is Not in You." When we really look within, we don't see guilt. We don't see blackness and sin. We see instead light. We see what this course refers to as atonement, the atonement, which is simply the correction of our inner teacher, which we accept for ourselves. We accept the correction of error, of incorrect perception in our mind. We see only separation. The Holy Spirit would have us look beyond that to the light. And when we look at error, when we look at separation and guilt, we're not looking within because the past, guilt, is not in us. Only the present is in us. When we truly look within, we see only the light, atonement, our perception corrected. Central to this, to accepting this for ourselves, is the recognition that the separation never occurred. So, yes, guilt is totally insane. Says this in multiple places in the text of A Course in Miracles. That is not a word that I've made up. Although, when you think about it, we've made up all of language. It says it right here in many places. Chapter 13, section 10, if you want to take a closer look. So we truly look within, and what we see as we look past guilt and all of the clouds of guilt is light. we're afraid to look within here in the world as we run amok, doing our little ego thing, because we think we'll see only our darkness. What darkness? We would see light. You're invited to really look within and see who you are. It's also who we all are. Your brother, every living thing, one perfect oneness. So, what do we do? Well, we forgive wholly and completely. Love is total. It's said here in the text, love is not special. Here's what is meant by that in A Course in Miracles. We talked about it a few minutes ago. Forgiveness is either total or it's not at all. Love is total, it is whole. And if you don't love wholly and completely without exception, then it's not love. It's separation and, well, hatred, guilt, blame, fear, and all of the stuff that spirals out of control. Love is not partial. That's another way of looking at the sentence, love is not special. Again, chapter 13, section 10. Paragraph 11, if you really want to narrow it down. Love is not partial. It does not play one side against another. It does not recognize divisions. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't hold some people out for special adulation and praise and deep respect and renown while condemning others to a fiery hell. If you're still doing that, your forgiveness is not total. So, does this mean that ultimately we must forgive everything and everyone? Yeah. Now, here is where people get stuck at the level of form, at the level of appearance, and for one reason or another, do not look beyond to the light, to the truth of who and what we really are. What happens is there are a number of different ways that people have harmed us in the world, that people harm one another. Some of them are egregious, like murder and genocide, and there are extraordinary, sad, and just really awful, grievous abuses. What I wish to share with you is that it is, in fact, possible to forgive while keeping yourself away on the level of form from abuse, from an abusive partner, for example, or an abusive group of people, whatever that may look like. Forgiveness is done in the mind, and that abusive ex or current partner, for example, doesn't even have to know you're doing it. It's done in your mind. Without the expectation that it's going to change someone else's behavior here in the world. It may not, and that's not the point. So if you find yourself in a position where you're saying, okay, well, this sounds really good. Forgiveness is either total or it's not at all. Yeah, I get that. I know, but I'm unwilling to go there with this person. Not a problem. Start with what you're capable of doing. Our lives dish out many opportunities. In fact, anything that is not wholly joyous is an opportunity for forgiveness. This does mean that our natural state is total joy, boundlessness, limitlessness, utter joy, and nothing else. So anything that is not that is an opportunity to forgive, even if it's a simple annoyance, even if it's forgiving yourself for stubbing your toe, even if it's forgiving a passing cloud for obscuring the sun for 5 minutes. Anything. Whatever crosses your mind, whatever comes up for you in your experience that is not wholly joyous is an opportunity to truly forgive. And if you're thinking that, well, I can't go there with this person or this group of people right now, do what you're able to do right now. Your inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, will guide you. We forgive under his guidance, after all. He knows what we're capable of doing right now in the present moment. So do just that. You'll be on the right track. There's nothing for us to feel guilty about. The separation never took place. Perhaps this resonates with you. It did me when I saw it in print here in A Course in Miracles. Perhaps you've had a similar experience, or perhaps you're thinking, yeah, I don't know. I look around and all I see is separation. There appear to be 8 billion of us after all, plus all of the additional life forms with which we share this spinning ball of rock, hurtling through space and wobbling on its axis. Spinning, wobbling ball of rock. It's kind of funny when you think about it that way, isn't it? Well, we appear to see multiplicity, but we're invited to go beyond that. Multiplicity is what we see with the body's eyes. It's what we see on the level of form, on the screen, as it were, of life, as we watch the movie of life. It's what appears on the screen. Our mind is the projector. What we do is we look past the images to the truth, to what really is. We look past the clouds of guilt and separation to the light. This is what forgiveness involves. It involves our peeling off of layers. It's like peeling off a veil, a multi-layered veil that obscures our vision. That is what this course is all about. That is what each and every single act of true forgiveness of the Son of God is about. And if you wish to awaken, truly awaken, as in awaken in God, enlightenment, realization of God, whatever you want to call it, in words, going home, people say as well. If that's what you really wish, then forgiveness must be total and complete, or it is not at all. So we can't actually fully go home, in a manner of speaking, awaken, until our perception is wholly and completely clarified. In other words, when we learn to see truly, truth dawns of itself, and it does not dawn of itself before then. Not totally. Now, you may have had in your lifetime some glimpses. Yes, that's entirely possible. Perhaps you have, perhaps you haven't. Whether you did or didn't actually isn't the point, in fact. It's what we do with the present moment that matters, and whether we truly forgive or whether we don't. So we begin to see here as we practice and study this course that no compromise is possible. And why would you want to? We're invited to want the peace of God and nothing else. That is why it is in idea, one of the lessons in the workbook for students. I want the peace of God. We all do. It's a matter of our accepting it. So, how willing are you to accept that today? My hope is totally. And to the extent that it's not, that's all right too. We just keep going. In a manner of speaking, we put one foot in front of the other because you know, count on it, that there are going to be multiple forgiveness opportunities today. They're going to be. Something is going to annoy you. This course is highly practical. And remember, we talked about this a few minutes ago. It is all about doing it, doing it. So if you feel, which is common enough here on the path, that you need help in doing it, ask, ask. We have everything to gain, literally everything to gain and nothing to lose by asking our inner teacher for help. You may be directed to type out a question or a comment here and ask me for help. I'm here to serve as a guide. So please do that if it occurs to you to do that. We've had a number of really excellent discussions right here on the comment thread in YouTube. So that is perfectly, perfectly valid. Questions if you've got them, even if you want to just pop in and say hello. We may be directed to ask someone who appears to look like this, who is appearing in human form. We're all appearing to be here. In truth, we're not the physical body. We're spirit. We're one with God. And we all know this. The question is, are you willing to accept that? Are you willing to allow truth to be just as it is? So, to the extent that that does not seem likely today, and you have questions, ask your inner teacher for guidance. Ask me for guidance. Ask someone else whom you trust for guidance. Yes, there are many resources available to you. Now, if you would like to subscribe and you have not yet, I invite you to do that. Please go ahead and subscribe and join us. Thank you to those of you who have recently joined us. There have been a number of us, and the community is international. It's literally all over the world and growing all the time. This is the prompt. So go ahead and click that or hover over that, subscribe, and join us, please. A number of videos appear each week. And again, my purpose for offering this is to offer the Holy Spirit, to share our inner teacher with you. There is a message for you every single time a video drops. What exactly that is for you, I don't know. I never know what I'm going to say when the camera clicks on. But what we can say for sure is there are certain phrases that are on repeat here because they're on repeat in the course. This video is about A Course in Miracles. What it says, what it means. There is no separation. The separation never occurred. Where are you? Who and what are you? Truly. You know, I know that you know. We all do. Are we willing to accept truth just as it is? We are the Son of God. God has extended himself. He extends himself. I invite you to allow that to sink in. God is the creator, the only reality. He extends himself. So to the extent that you wish to awaken, extend love while you appear to be here to your brother, and do it totally and impartially without singling out one person, one single person for specific hatred and contempt. Love totally, because love is total. Thank you, as always, for joining.